John never imagined his life would be turned upside down by betrayal. Married to Linda for over a decade, they had built what seemed like a perfect life together. They had 2 kids, Sophie and Aaron, and lived in a beautiful home, surrounded by friends and family. Their life was filled with laughter, love, and shared dreams. To the outside world, they seemed like the picture-perfect couple. But everything changed one fateful evening when John discovered his wife's affair. The painful truth was something he wasn't ready to face. It was Linda who confessed, sitting in the living room with tears streaming down her face. She had been seeing another man, Grant, someone she met through work. John felt his world crumble as the words sank in. He was stunned, speechless, as Linda explained that she had never intended to hurt him, but the damage had already been done. She was sorry, deeply remorseful, but the truth was out. Their marriage was forever altered. Trust, the very foundation of any relationship, had been shattered. John's heart was heavy with the weight of it all. He couldn't fathom how someone he loved so deeply could betray him in such a devastating way. The betrayal wasn't just about the affair itself. It was the violation of trust that had been built over years of shared memories, dreams, and commitments. As Linda begged for forgiveness, John struggled with his emotions. Could he ever trust her again? Could their family ever heal from this? The first few days after the revelation were filled with confusion. John didn't know what to do with himself. Should he confront Linda? Should he leave? Should he try to rebuild their relationship? Every decision felt impossible. His mind raced in circles, and every moment felt like an eternity. It wasn't just about their marriage anymore. It was about everything they had built together. Their children, their home, their future. Could any of it survive this? The impact on their children was immediate. Sophie, their teenage daughter, was hurt and confused. She looked up to her parents as role models, and now everything felt shattered. Sophie had always been the type of girl to internalize her emotions. She didn't know how to process the pain of her parents' marriage falling apart. Aaron, still young, sensed the tension in the house but didn't understand why his parents seemed distant. John did his best to shield them from the full extent of what had happened, but it was clear that things were never going to be the same. Every day felt like a reminder of the betrayal, and John wrestled with a difficult decision, whether to try and rebuild his marriage or walk away. He knew that whatever he chose would affect not only his future but the future of his children too. Linda, on the other hand, was tormented by guilt. She couldn't stop replaying the choices she had made, wondering how things had gone so wrong. She had never imagined she would be in this position. She loved John, but the affair had blurred her judgment and clouded her values. Despite her efforts to explain, John found it impossible to forgive her. It wasn't just about the affair. It was about the emotional distance that had formed between them over the years. The love they once shared felt distant, like a memory fading away. And that's what hurt John the most. The sense of betrayal was amplified by the realization that their relationship had been drifting apart for years. The affair wasn't just a sudden mistake. It was the result of a slow unraveling that neither of them had fully recognized. As Linda begged for forgiveness, John wrestled with the idea of reconciliation. Could he ever forgive her? Could their relationship ever return to the way it was? He thought about the past, their good times, the laughter, the love they had shared. He thought about their wedding day, the promises they made to each other, and the life they had built. But when he looked into Linda's eyes, all he could see was the emptiness of betrayal. He didn't know how to move forward. Every step seemed like a step toward more pain. It wasn't long before John made the decision to file for divorce. The pain was immense, but he knew it was the right choice. He needed to move forward, for his own well-being and for the sake of his children. The divorce wasn't about vengeance. It was about reclaiming his life and protecting his family from further emotional damage. Linda agreed to the divorce, acknowledging her mistakes and expressing her deep regret. But it was too late. John was already emotionally distant, and the connection between them was irreparable. The divorce process was difficult, not just legally but emotionally. The house was sold, and they had to figure out the details of their children's living arrangements. Sophie wanted to live with her mother, but Aaron wanted to stay with John. John fought to make sure both children were happy, making sure they still had a sense of stability despite the chaos surrounding them. It was a painful time, filled with legal battles, emotional arguments, and moments of deep sorrow. But through it all, John never lost sight of what mattered most: his children. After the divorce, John focused on his own healing and the well-being of his children. He knew that moving forward wouldn't be easy, but it was necessary. He decided to take Sophie and Aaron on a Mediterranean cruise, hoping that the trip would offer them a chance to create new memories and heal. The ocean, with its vastness and beauty, seemed like the perfect place to reflect and begin again. During the trip, they experienced moments of joy and laughter that allowed them to bond as a family again. It was a welcome relief from the emotional strain of the past months. They visited charming islands, swam in crystal-clear waters, and explored ancient ruins. For a brief moment, John was able to forget the pain of the past and focus on the present. Meanwhile, Grant, the man who had caused so much pain, was facing his own consequences. He was convicted of aggravated assault, battery, and attempted murder in a separate incident. For John, this was a form of justice. Though it didn't heal the wounds of betrayal, it offered a sense of closure. Knowing that Grant was facing legal repercussions for his actions provided some comfort, especially knowing he wouldn't be able to cause any more harm to John or his family. As time passed, John began to rebuild his life. He found that healing from infidelity wasn't a linear process. It was filled with ups and downs. But with each day, he grew stronger, learning to trust himself again. The road wasn't easy, but it was necessary. He received a financial settlement from the divorce, which he used to secure his children's future. He set up college funds for Sophie and Aaron, making sure they had everything they needed to succeed. It was a small but significant way of turning the page on the past and focusing on what truly mattered: his family's future. Linda, on the other hand, was struggling to rebuild her own life. She entered therapy, hoping to work through her issues and understand why she had made the choices she did. She realized that while she still loved John, their marriage had been broken beyond repair. There was no going back. She focused on herself, avoiding dating, and instead channeling her energy into her personal growth. She started writing blogs about her experiences and began to make peace with the reality of the situation. It was a slow and painful process, but Linda started to understand that healing couldn't happen overnight. It was something she had to work on daily. Despite everything, John still cared for Linda, but he knew he could never go back to her. Their relationship was forever changed, and the emotional scars were too deep to ignore. He accepted that some things in life are beyond repair, no matter how much you wish otherwise. As time went on, John found himself open to the idea of new relationships, though he took things slowly. On the Mediterranean cruise, he met a woman named Nikki. They had an instant connection, and for the first time in a long while, John allowed himself to feel hopeful about the future. They began to talk, sharing their stories and supporting each other through their own personal struggles. Yet, life wasn't without its surprises. One day, John received a shocking call. Linda had attempted to end her life. The news sent shockwaves through him. It was an unimaginable turn of events, and John couldn't help but feel a mix of concern and guilt. Linda was rushed to the hospital, and though she survived, it was clear that the emotional toll of the divorce and her actions had taken a significant toll on her mental health. John, though hurt, did his best to support his children and keep the family together. He couldn't erase the past, but he could still be there for Linda in her darkest hour. It was a complicated feeling, concern for someone who had caused him so much pain, but also understanding that she was struggling too. Linda was placed in a care facility for constant supervision, and while she slowly recovered, the impact of her actions lingered. It was a reminder that mental health is a serious matter, and sometimes the aftermath of betrayal can lead to far-reaching consequences. For John, it was a difficult reality to face, but he knew he had to continue moving forward for himself and his kids. Life wasn't always fair, but he had learned that healing wasn't just about moving on. It was about learning from the past, forgiving when possible, and finding peace in the present. John's journey wasn't easy, but it led him to a place of strength and understanding. He found love again in Nikki and started to believe in second chances. The pain of betrayal would always be a part of his story, but it no longer defined him. He had learned to heal, to trust again, and to embrace the future with hope. Life after betrayal wasn't easy, but it was possible. And that was the lesson he carried with him every day. In the end, sometimes it takes a heartbreaking loss to make room for new beginnings.